The Ohio River is not just a backdrop here. It's a force that's shaped our towns, our economy, and the land itself. Our Cassidy Fury is live in the studio to take us through the river's evolution over the years. Cassidy?
Thanks for having me, Phyllis. River communities have been the heart and soul of this area for hundreds of years, from transportation to commerce to the recreational waterway we have today. There's so much to be proud of when we take a look at the history of the river and what it has meant for the Mid-Ohio Valley.
This is Home, sponsored by A1 Heating and Cooling and TB Dentistry.
The Ohio River hasn't always been the recreational destination that it is today. Since the 1800s, it has served as one of the most profitable river highways in the world.
From Wheeling to Pittsburgh to Cincinnati, Louisville, Kentucky, down to New Orleans, steamboats dominated. So if you needed any product or if you needed to get anywhere, that was typically your mode of transportation. And that's vastly different today, where you see an interstate running right by here. But at that period, steamboats were your mode of travel for this region.
Executive Director of the Ohio River Commission, Taylor Abbott's family has poured their heart into the river for around 200 years.
Eventually, my second great-grandfather, he became the United States Inspector for U.S. Boilers, was appointed by the Acting Secretary of the United States Treasury. And he was also a river captain, and his son started building steamboats like this one here. So for us, being a riverman or someone of river origins, was working on the river, building steamboats, just being an active part of that industry because it was a booming one at that point in time.
As industry boomed in the area, there was a need for environmental regulations.
Back in those days, it wasn't viewed as the recreational and natural resource that we see it as today. It was used and abused for the growth that the area was experiencing. Commerce
is still a vital part of the usage of the Ohio River.
So when you're talking about coal, if we're talking about grain, gravel, sand, it's still the most cheapest, cleanest, efficient way to move that product in the United States. You can carry more than you can on rail cars or even trucks. It just absolutely dominates when it comes to that.
Abbott said steamboats were built and furnished directly on the Ohio River by rivermen like his ancestors.
It's a community. If you live along the river, you know that. It's hard to explain to people that don't live along the Ohio River, but if you have, you know instantly when you say there's a river community, because you know it. You've lived it. It's just a different sense of community, pride, and history there.
The Ohio River is much cleaner than it has been historically, and the Commission wants to encourage people to explore what it has to offer.
I definitely see tourism and recreation really shifting dynamically to put a focus on really getting people not from here to come use it and see the value in it. If you're on this upper end of the river and any stretch of it, hands down, it's one of the most beautiful in the United States. There's no question about it.
The river is responsible for many of the cities that settled and prospered around it. I'm Cassidy Fury with WTAP News, and this is Home.
After the Ohio River Valley Water Sanitation Commission was established in 1948, several initiatives like the Clean Water Act of 1972 were adopted to limit the pollution of the river. It continues to be one of the most critical and heavily utilized commercial inland waterways in the United States. The Ohio River Commission hopes that the recreation and tourism along the river will continue to grow. Thank you, Phyllis. Back to you.